I gave everything I had to my family, my time, my health, my money, and they used me until I was broken. My sister lied, manipulated Mom, and tried to take everything I worked for. I watched her pretend to be the caring daughter while I struggled alone, and no one believed me. 4 years I sacrificed myself, and they called me selfish when I finally said no. But this story isn't about me losing, it's about truth, justice, and watching karma catch up to the ones who thought they could destroy me. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people you loved most, this will hit you hard. I never thought my own family would break me. But here I am, telling this story because maybe someone out there has been through the same thing. Maybe you'll understand what it feels like when your own blood uses you until there's nothing left. It all started with one sentence that still echoes in my head: if you don't help us, who will? That was what my sister Carol said the day everything began to crumble. At first, it sounded innocent, even loving. But those words became chains around my neck. I grew up in a working-class family. My father was a truck driver, gone for weeks at a time. My mother raised 4 of us kids with barely enough money to buy new shoes once a year. From a young age, I learned one rule: family comes first. No matter what. And I carried that rule like a badge of honor into my adult life. I worked hard, maybe too hard. After high school, I went straight into construction. Long hours, dangerous conditions, and bosses who thought screaming was the same thing as management. I never complained, though. My paycheck fed me and later helped Mom when she needed it. Then it started helping my siblings too. Little loans here and there, just until payday, but payday never came. The real breaking point came when Mom got sick. She needed someone to take care of her, and of course, that someone was me. Carol and my brother swore they'd do their part, but weeks turned into months and somehow I was the one running from work straight to Mom's house every night, cooking, cleaning, giving her medicine. My body was breaking, but no one cared. I'll never forget one night. I came home after a 12-hour shift in the freezing rain. My clothes were soaked, my back ached so badly I could barely bend over, and there was a message on my phone from Carol. You need to buy Mom's groceries tomorrow. I'm busy. No thank you, no asking. Just an order. I sat there, staring at the screen, shaking. I whispered to myself, why is it always me? At work, things weren't better. The company cut corners constantly. Safety harnesses were old and frayed, ladders wobbled like they were made of paper, and the foreman screamed if you slowed down for even a second. I saw men fall, get injured, and the company just replaced them like broken tools. Still, I kept going because I had no choice. One day, I nearly collapsed. We were lifting steel beams, and I felt a sharp pain tear through my chest. I thought, this is it. This is the heart attack that kills me. But no one noticed. My co-workers just shouted, keep going. And I did. Because I was scared that if I didn't, someone else would lose patience and I'd lose the only income keeping Mom alive. At home, Carol had the nerve to say, you're lucky you don't have kids to worry about. You should be the one helping more. I couldn't believe it. Lucky. Was it lucky that I had no family of my own because I was too busy being their servant? Was it lucky that I was 45, single, and exhausted because every ounce of my life had been poured into everyone else's needs but my own? I began to notice something darker. While I was drowning, my siblings were thriving. Carol and her husband went on vacations. My younger brother bought a new car. My older brother bragged about his boat. Meanwhile, I was eating instant noodles just to afford Mom's medication. It wasn't just unfair, it was betrayal. The tension snapped during one family dinner. I had just finished a 14-hour day, and Carol looked straight at me and said, we decided you'll cover the property taxes on Mom's house this year. Since you're the one living closest, it makes sense. I slammed my fork down. My voice cracked when I said, do you even hear yourselves? I pay the bills, I buy the food, I take care of Mom, I'm breaking my back every day, and you want more. Carol rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. We all have responsibilities. That was the moment I realized they didn't see me as family anymore. They saw me as free labor. A wallet. A caretaker. A mule to carry every burden. That night, lying awake in bed, I whispered something I never thought I'd say, I can't do this anymore. And for the first time in years, I let myself imagine walking away. But here's the twist. When I finally said no, when I finally tried to reclaim even a tiny piece of my life, the family turned on me. They called me selfish. They said I abandoned Mom. They even spread lies to neighbors about how ungrateful I was after all the family had done for me. I felt destroyed. I had given everything, my time, my health, my money, my heart, and in return, I was painted as the villain. So I ask you this, was I really selfish for finally saying no? Or was I just broken after a lifetime of being used? Because here's the thing about work, whether it's on a job site or in your own family. If you give too much, one day it will break you. And when it breaks, nobody comes to pick up the pieces. And that was the night I decided something had to change. After I said no, after I finally refused to be the family's servant, everything changed. And not for the better. It started slowly, with little comments. Carol would sigh loudly on the phone and say, "Well, I guess I'll try to handle things since you're too busy." My older brother, Frank, told me I should man up and stop complaining. And my younger brother, Eddie, just avoided me completely. They all acted like I had betrayed them, when the truth was, they had been betraying me for years. But the real storm hit when Mom's health took a turn for the worse. She needed more care, doctor visits, medication adjustments, even someone to sit by her bed through the night. Carol called me one evening and said, "Since you've decided you're too good to help, I'll have to do it. But don't blame me if something goes wrong." Her voice was sharp, almost like a threat. I tried to remind her gently, "Carol, I've been doing this alone for years. I can't carry it anymore." She snapped back, "You think you're the only one with problems? We all have lives, but you're just bitter because yours didn't turn out the way you wanted." Those words cut deeper than any blade. Bitter? Was I bitter? Or was I simply exhausted from being used? Meanwhile, at work, the stress was killing me. I was running on 4 hours of sleep, my body aching from every shift, my hands cracked and bleeding from the cold. The foreman didn't care. He barked at me like a dog, "Move faster. If you can't handle it, I'll find someone who can." I wanted to scream, but instead, I swallowed the pain and kept going. Then one day, Carol showed up at my house unannounced. She sat at my kitchen table, arms crossed, and said, "We had a family meeting. We've decided that when Mom passes, her house should go to me. Since I've done the most for her." I almost choked on my coffee. "You've done the most? Carol, are you kidding me? I've been paying her bills, feeding her, caring for her. You pop in once a week and act like a saint." She lifted her chin. "Well, I have kids. They need stability. You don't. It's only fair." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Fair? Fair would have been splitting responsibilities years ago. Fair would have been recognizing the sacrifices I'd already made. Instead, she wanted to take the one thing Mom had worked her whole life to keep, the family home, and claim it as her prize. I said firmly, "No. If anyone deserves that house, it's Mom's decision, not yours. And if she wants it split between us, that's how it will be." Carol's face twisted in anger. "You're selfish. Always have been. That house will rot under you. At least I'd keep it alive." I felt my chest burning. All those years of sacrifice, erased with one sentence. From that day on, the whispers started. Relatives who used to greet me warmly now gave me cold stares. An aunt pulled me aside at church and said, "You should be ashamed. Your mother deserves better." I realized Carol had been spreading her version of the story, painting me as the child who abandoned his mother while she picked up the pieces. But the truth? She wasn't picking up anything. She was circling like a vulture, waiting for the inheritance. The stress built up until one night, I broke down. I was sitting in my truck after work, hands trembling on the steering wheel, and I said out loud, "I can't do this anymore. They're killing me." And then came the moment that nearly destroyed me. Mom called. Her voice was weak, softer than I'd ever heard it. She said, "Honey, why is everyone saying you don't care about me anymore?" I felt like my heart shattered in my chest. "Mom, that's not true. I've been here every day, every night." She interrupted. "Carol told me you refused to help. That you're too busy for family now." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. "Mom, listen to me. That's not what happened. I couldn't keep doing it all alone. I needed help. That's all." There was silence. Then she whispered, "I don't want to fight. I just want peace." And in that moment, I realized Carol had already poisoned her mind. The next weeks were a blur. I tried to visit Mom, but every time I showed up, Carol was there, glaring at me, making snide remarks like, "Look who finally decided to show his face." She would hover around, making sure Mom saw only her version of the truth. One evening, as I left, I overheard Carol in the hallway whispering to Mom, "Don't trust him with money. He's careless. I'll handle everything for you." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about care. It was about control. It was about inheritance. It was about erasing me so she could take everything. And the worst part? It was working. Mom started questioning me about small things. "Did you really pay the gas bill?" "Carol said it was late." Or, "Why don't you call me as much anymore?" My throat tightened every time. I had been the one holding her life together, and now she doubted me. I went home that night and sat in the dark. My house felt cold, empty, and I whispered to myself, maybe they're right. Maybe I am selfish. Maybe I should have just kept going, even if it killed me. But then another thought crept in, or maybe they're the selfish ones. Maybe I've been blind this whole time. And that's when I made a decision. If my family wanted to play dirty, I was going to protect myself. I didn't know how yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let them destroy me completely. Because when a family treats you like a tool, eventually, that tool learns to fight back. I always thought inheritances were about love. About passing down a piece of yourself to the ones you cared about most. But in my family, it turned into a battlefield. And I was the target. It started with a knock on my door late one Saturday night. I opened it to find Eddie, my younger brother, standing there with a sheepish look. He rarely came by, so I knew something was off. He stepped inside, glanced around like he was making sure no one followed him, and whispered, "You need to see something." From his jacket pocket, he pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a copy of Mom's will. My heart stopped. "Where did you get this?" I asked. He shrugged nervously. "Carol left it in her car. I took a picture when she wasn't looking." I unfolded it, and my stomach turned. The will had been updated. The family house, the one Mom always said would be split fairly, was now listed entirely under Carol's name. And not just the house. Most of the savings, too. I felt the blood drain from my face. This can't be real. Mom would never do this. Eddie looked down. "She thinks she's protecting Mom. Carol told her you're reckless with money. That you'd sell the house the moment Mom's gone." I slammed my fist against the table. "That's a lie. I've been the one paying the bills, keeping this house standing." Eddie winced. "I know. But Carol's been talking to her every day. She's got her wrapped around her finger. Frank's backing her too." I stared at him. "So where do you stand, Eddie?" He hesitated. "Honestly? I don't want to get caught in the middle. But I thought you should know." And with that, he left me holding the paper, my hands trembling, my chest burning. My siblings weren't just ungrateful. They were erasing me from my own mother's story. The next day, I went to see Mom. I tried to stay calm, but my voice shook as I asked, "Mom, did you change your will?" Her eyes softened. "Honey, Carol said it would be easier this way. She has children. She can take care of the house." I could barely breathe. "Mom, I've been taking care of everything for years. I don't even want the house for me. I just want it to be fair." She looked away. "I don't want fighting. Carol said you'd understand." Understand? Understand that I had given my whole life for her and my siblings, only to be cut out like I was nothing? That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with every sacrifice I'd made. The nights I skipped meals so Mom could have medicine, the holidays I spent alone because I was working overtime, the back-breaking labor I endured just to keep the family afloat. And now Carol wanted to erase all of it with a single stroke of a pen. The breaking point came at the next family dinner. Carol was there, of course, smug as ever. Frank sat beside her, nodding like her loyal soldier. Mom was quiet, frail, sipping soup slowly. I decided it was time to confront them. I set my fork down and said, "I know about the will." The room went silent. Carol's eyes narrowed. "So Eddie showed you. Figures." Frank crossed his arms. "It's for the best. Carol can handle the responsibility. You can't." My voice rose. "Can't? I've been the one holding this family together. Without me, Mom wouldn't even have a house left to argue over. Carol smirked. Don't play the martyr. You helped because you had nothing better to do. Don't act like you're some kind of hero. I stood up, fists clenched. You're unbelievable. You sat back, took vacations, bought boats and cars, while I broke my body for this family. And now you want to take the only thing Mom has left. Carol leaned back in her chair, calm as a snake. Yes. Because I deserve it. The air in the room crackled with tension. Mom looked terrified, whispering, "Please, no fighting." But it was too late. I looked at her and said softly, "Mom, you're letting them take everything from me. From us." Her eyes filled with tears, but she said nothing. Carol had her completely under control. That night, I made a decision. If they wanted a war, they'd get one. The next week, I started digging. I pulled out receipts, bills, bank statements, every dollar I had spent on Mom's care over the years. I made copies of grocery receipts, medication costs, even the property tax slips I'd paid when no one else lifted a finger. The pile grew into a mountain of proof. Proof that I had been the one carrying the family. But I didn't stop there. I talked to a lawyer. For the first time in my life, I said, I need help. My family is trying to steal everything from me. The lawyer listened carefully and said, if you can prove undue influence, you might be able to challenge the will. Undue influence. The words rang in my ears like a drum. Because that was exactly what Carol was doing. Twisting Mom's mind, filling her with lies, and making her believe I was the villain. But as I built my case, the family fought back. Carol started telling neighbors I was planning to throw Mom in a nursing home. Frank told distant relatives I was stealing money from Mom. The whispers grew louder, until I felt like the whole town was turning against me. At work, I couldn't focus. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped a steel beam on myself. The foreman yelled, "What's wrong with you? Get it together." But I couldn't. I was unraveling. One night, exhausted and broken, I sat in my dark living room staring at the pile of evidence. And I thought, is this who I am now? Fighting my own family in court, just to prove I'm not the villain they made me out to be? But then I remembered Mom's voice on the phone, doubting me because of Carol's lies. I remembered the years of sacrifice erased. And I whispered, I'm not the villain. They are. And in that moment, I knew, I wasn't just fighting for the house. I was fighting for my dignity. For every piece of myself they tried to take. This was no longer about family. It was about survival. And I was ready for war. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to drag my own family into court. But when people corner you, when they strip away every ounce of dignity you have left, you either surrender, or you fight. And I wasn't going to surrender anymore. The weeks leading up to the hearing felt like walking through fire. Every phone call, every visit with Mom turned into a battle. Carol hovered over her like a guard dog, making sure I never got a private moment. Frank acted like her enforcer, glaring at me whenever I walked into the room. And Eddie? He vanished. The same brother who showed me the will suddenly stopped answering my calls. I knew Carol had gotten to him, but I kept preparing. My lawyer told me, you need to stay calm, no matter what. They'll try to provoke you. I nodded, but inside I was a storm. How could I stay calm when my own sister was trying to erase me from my mother's life? The day of the hearing, I walked into the courthouse with a folder so thick it barely fit in my bag. Receipts, tax records, medical bills, all the evidence of the years I'd spent carrying this family. I thought it would speak for itself. When I entered the room, Carol was already there, wearing a black dress like she was the grieving widow of a man who wasn't even dead yet. She smiled faintly at me, that smug smile that said she thought she'd already won. Frank sat beside her, arms crossed, while Eddie avoided eye contact altogether. Mom was there too, frail and quiet, her eyes darting nervously between us. The judge began with a calm voice, this is a matter of contested inheritance and undue influence. Carol's lawyer spoke first. He painted her as a devoted daughter who had selflessly taken on the burden of caregiving, while I, apparently, had distanced myself from family responsibilities. My blood boiled as he spoke. Lies, every word of it. When it was my turn, my lawyer laid out the mountain of evidence. He showed receipts for every grocery trip, every medical bill, every property tax payment I had made. He said, This man has been the backbone of his mother's care for years. Without him, she would not have the stability she enjoys today. I watched the judge nod slightly, and for a moment, hope flickered in me. But then Carol stood up. She looked straight at the judge and, with tears in her eyes, said, "I love my mother more than anything. I have children of my own, and I know what it means to sacrifice. But my brother, he has always been reckless. He wastes money. He makes promises he can't keep. My mother deserves someone stable to handle her affairs." Her voice cracked, and she dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. It was a performance worthy of an actress. And I saw the judge's expression soften. I couldn't stay silent. I leaned forward and said, "That's not true. She's lying. I've given everything for this family." The judge cut me off sharply. "Sir, you will speak when addressed." I bit my tongue, my chest burning, my hands trembling under the table. Then came the worst moment. The judge asked Mom directly, "Do you feel your decision was influenced by anyone in this room?" The room went silent. Mom looked at Carol, then at me. Her lips trembled. For a second, I thought she would finally speak the truth. That she would admit Carol had been whispering poison into her ear. But instead she whispered, "No. I made the choice myself." My heart dropped into my stomach. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. After everything I had done, after all the years of sacrifice, she chose Carol's story over mine. Carol reached over and held Mom's hand like a saint, while Frank smirked at me across the table. It felt like losing twice, once in court and once in my mother's heart. But the hearing wasn't over. My lawyer presented one final piece of evidence, a bank statement showing Carol had withdrawn money from Mom's account for family expenses. Except the expenses were spa treatments, shopping trips, and even a hotel stay. The judge's face darkened. He looked directly at Carol. "Do you have an explanation for this?" Carol's cheeks flushed. She stammered, That was for Mom. She wanted those things. I couldn't help it. I let out a bitter laugh. Really? Mom wanted a spa day and a luxury hotel while I was scraping change to buy her medication." The judge banged his gavel. "Order in the court." For the first time, Carol's mask slipped. Her eyes narrowed at me, full of rage. She knew I had caught her. The hearing ended without a decision. The judge said he would review all evidence before ruling. We left the courthouse in silence, but outside, Carol spun on me. "You think you're smart, don't you?" she hissed. "You think those receipts make you a hero? You're nothing. Mom doesn't even believe you anymore. You've already lost." I stared at her, my fists clenched. "I'd rather lose everything than be the kind of person you've become." She leaned closer, her voice dripping with venom. "Then you'll get your wish." As I drove home, the weight of it all crushed me. The betrayal, the lies, the humiliation, it was almost too much. I thought about giving up, about letting them take everything just so I could finally rest. But then I remembered the years of pain. The nights I came home drenched in rain, exhausted from work, only to care for Mom because no one else would. The times I went hungry so she could eat. The endless sacrifices that no one else had made. And I whispered to myself, "No, I'm not done. Not yet." Because this fight wasn't just about money or a house anymore. It was about respect. About truth. About proving, once and for all, that I wasn't the villain in this story. The next round would be brutal. I knew that. Families can cut deeper than any enemy. But if Carol wanted a war, she was about to see just how far I was willing to go. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was justice. The weeks after the hearing felt endless. Every day I went to work with the weight of the world on my back, not knowing how the judge would rule, not knowing if all my years of sacrifice would count for anything. At night I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the mountain of receipts and bills, wondering if they would finally tell my side of the story, or if Carol's lies would drown me out completely. I told myself over and over, it's not just about the house. It's about the truth. It's about dignity. But deep down, I was terrified. Terrified that in the end, I'd be left with nothing but a broken body and a broken heart. Then, one gray Monday morning, the phone rang. It was my lawyer. "The judge has issued his decision," he said. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. He told me to meet him at the courthouse. The drive there felt like the longest of my life. My chest was tight, my stomach in knots. When I walked into the room, Carol was already there, dressed in her finest clothes, her hair perfect, a smile tugging at her lips. She thought she had already won. Frank sat beside her, smirking as always. Eddie slouched in the back, avoiding my eyes. Mom was wheeled in, looking smaller and weaker than ever, her eyes clouded with confusion and sadness. The judge entered, papers in hand. The room fell silent. He cleared his throat and began. After reviewing all evidence presented, this court finds that there is substantial proof of undue influence exerted over Mrs. Harris in the drafting of her most recent will. My heart skipped a beat. Carol's smile froze. The judge continued, financial records clearly show funds withdrawn for personal use under the guise of caregiving. This casts serious doubt on the credibility of the petitioner, Ms. Carol Jensen. I glanced at Carol. Her face turned red, her jaw tightening. The judge went on, therefore, the contested will is invalid. The estate will revert to the prior version, dividing assets equally among all children. For a moment, I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Then it hit me, I had won. Not just the house, not just the inheritance, but the truth. Carol slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. I took care of Mom. I deserve that house. The judge stared at her coolly. Sit down, Ms. Jensen, or you will be held in contempt. Frank muttered something under his breath, his face dark with anger. Eddie kept his head down, shame washing over him. I wanted to stand up and shout, "Do you see now? Do you finally see what you've done?" But instead, I stayed quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't need to explain myself. The truth had spoken for me. But the real moment of justice came not from the judge, but from Mom. As we were leaving, she reached out a trembling hand toward me. Her voice was weak, but clear enough for everyone to hear. I'm sorry, son. I should have trusted you. I see now what she did. Carol's face twisted in rage, but Mom kept her eyes on me. Tears ran down her cheeks. You were always the one who was there. Always. I let them convince me otherwise. Forgive me. I knelt beside her, my own eyes burning. I already forgave you, Mom. I just wanted you to know the truth. Carol stormed out of the courthouse, her heels clicking like gunshots on the tile floor. Frank followed, muttering curses under his breath. Eddie lingered for a moment, then looked at me with guilt in his eyes. He whispered, "I'm sorry," before hurrying after them. And just like that, the battle was over. The house, the money, it was all divided equally, just like Mom had originally wanted. But more importantly, the lies had been shattered. Carol's reputation in town crumbled. Neighbors who once whispered against me now whispered about her. The woman who tried to play the saint was revealed for what she truly was: selfish, manipulative, greedy. As for me, I didn't feel like celebrating. I felt tired. Deeply tired. Years of carrying that weight had left scars you couldn't see. But I also felt something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Because justice had been served. In the weeks that followed, Mom and I grew closer again. She still needed care, but this time, I set boundaries. I hired help with the money I rightfully received, so I wasn't the only one carrying the burden anymore. And every time I walked into her room, she looked at me with gratitude, not doubt. That was worth more than any inheritance. And Carol? She vanished. The vacations stopped, the shopping sprees ended. Word spread that she had debts she couldn't cover, and without Mom's money to prop her up, she had to face the mess she'd created. That was her karma. Looking back now, I realize something important. Work can break your body. Family can break your heart. But if you let them both, they'll break your soul. And once it's broken, nobody comes to fix it. You have to fix it yourself. So was I selfish for finally saying no? No. I was human. I was tired. And in the end, standing up for myself wasn't just about survival, it was about justice. And justice, in its own quiet way, came. Moral: never let anyone convince you that giving everything means you owe them more. Love is not measured by how much of yourself you destroy. And if someone uses family as an excuse to chain you down, remember, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to finally say, enough.